Hey everyone, Till here. Today I'm reviewing the ASUS Zenbook 17 Fold OLED model number UX9702. First of all, disclaimer, this is a review unit on loan from ASUS Singapore. In this video, I'm just going to present to you my findings so that you can decide whether or not this is worth the money. And the official retail price for this is US $3,500. Here in Singapore, it's 5,500 Singapore dollars. Now my review will be from the perspective of a visual content creator, someone who's into digital art, graphic design, edits photos and videos. And this review is going to be quite long, so if you want to save time, just use the timestamps provided to jump to different sections of this video, or check out the text review that I have already written on my blog. Let me give you the bottom line up front. The main selling point of this product is the huge 17.3-inch OLED display with folding design. So this can be used in different formats, like the book format. You can also use this as a wireless external display, and you can use this in laptop mode as well. This display has good color accuracy with support up to 100% DCI-P3. So this display is definitely good enough for visual content creation. The main downside or limitation with this laptop is the processing power. So this laptop is not really ideal for processor intensive work. You can do some light gaming and you can edit photos, but I don't recommend editing 4K videos on this, and also when you're exporting photos, the system can start to slow down. Battery life is about 5.5 hours to 6 hours with auto brightness. The keyboard mostly works fine except for the touchpad, which misbehaves occasionally. Battery life for this Bluetooth keyboard is just 1 week, and this has to be charged separately. The crease doesn't bother me because it's not obvious, but the reflections are quite obvious and distracting. And even when there are no obvious reflections on the display, there are still reflections. So this is a rather niche product for those who need a portable Windows computer with an extra large display. The overall performance is smooth and fast for non-gaming purposes. It is possible to edit 1080p videos, but this is not something I would recommend for editing videos. Of course, the price point is on the higher side because at that price point, which is 3,500 US dollars, you can actually get way more powerful laptops than this, but you won't get this huge 17.3-inch display. Another thing is, I'm not sure how repairable this display is if something goes wrong. And now on to the full review. So these are the items included with the purchase. This is the carrying case for the laptop. The exterior is leather and the interior is felt. This is a USB-C to USB-A adapter. This is the charger. The power output is 65 watts and this is USB-C. The laptop supports USB-C charging and hence can be used with other USB-C chargers as well. This is the user guide and warranty info, and you can turn this folding cardboard with the packaging box that's provided into a laptop stand. And now let's look at the design of the ASUS Zenbook 17 Fold OLED. This is how it looks when it's folded. This is thicker than usual laptops, and you can see this pearlescent design where the glow will move depending on where the light source is. This is very nice. That's the shiny ASUS logo. This is leather and this will protect the spine of the laptop, and this is the kickstand that you can fold out like this to make the laptop stand. This part here is the back or the bottom of the laptop, and this is matte textured, and there are two rubber feet so that you can place it on the table like this, and you can open the laptop like this. In laptop mode, the display is 12.5 inches and the resolution is 1920 by 1280. The aspect ratio is 3:2. Pixelation isn't that noticeable because the screen is smaller, and this is how it looks on the side. It is quite compact, but it's thicker than usual 12.5-inch or 13-inch laptops. The weight is 1.8 kg. The computer or the laptop or the tablet itself is 1.5 kg. This removable or detachable Bluetooth keyboard is 300 grams, so the total weight is 1.8 kg, and most 17-inch laptops are much heavier and bulkier. Now this bottom part here, which is leather wrap, will have wear and tear in the future. You can see some smudges on the leather here because I use this as a kickstand. ASUS says the hinge is tested for 30,000 cycles, so if you open and close this 20 times a day, this should last for at least 4 years. Where the ports and speakers are will be determined by whether this is in laptop or desktop mode. So in laptop mode, there are no ports on this side. There is a Thunderbolt port here, it's Thunderbolt 4. Speakers are at the top and also here in front. These two are the volume buttons, and on the right side here, there's the power button, the fan exhaust, 3.5mm audio jack, another Thunderbolt 4 port. This USB-C port is for charging the detachable Bluetooth keyboard, and you can see the power light there, and there is a power button for the keyboard as well. To use this in desktop mode, first remove the keyboard and the screen will extend all the way. It is possible to use this laptop like this because you can have the virtual keyboard appear here, but of course the typing experience is not going to be as good compared to typing on a physical keyboard. So just unfold this, make sure the rubber feet are at the bottom, fold out the kickstand from the back, and you can prop this display up like this. This OLED display of course is also a touch screen, and you can have the Bluetooth keyboard in front. In desktop mode, the Thunderbolt 4 port is here and here. The power button is here, the fan exhaust is here, the 3.5mm audio jack is here. The speakers are now side facing from the left and right. If you have to use two cables, this is how it will look. If you just need to use one cable or connection, you can use the port at the bottom left. In desktop mode, the camera is moved to the left side and face unlock still works fine. In laptop mode, the camera will be at the top. The bezels for this display is quite thin, but obviously not as thin compared to some other laptops, but this is thin enough. The crease in the middle is noticeable, but it's not as distracting compared to the reflections. If you are thinking of using this as a tablet, it is possible, except it's a 1.5 kg tablet. If this is a tablet, it is probably one of the biggest Windows tablet out there. And just for comparison purposes, let me show you how much extra space you can get with the ASUS display versus a 16:9 17.3 inch display. So that's how much extra space you can get. It is possible to use this display vertically, and to do that I recommend you get a proper laptop stand. This one that I'm using is the Pablo PR100. So you can place it here, and this will make your web pages look huge. This 4:3 aspect ratio actually reminds me of those old computer monitors or LCD displays from many years ago. This is an OLED display. The colors look fantastic out of the box, and this is also a touch screen. Color support is up to 100% DCI-P3, so this display is definitely color accurate enough for visual content creation. Contrast ratio is 1 to 1 million. There is no mention of standard brightness on ASUS website. Right now I have the display at maybe 80% brightness and it looks bright enough for me. The only issue with this display for me is just how glossy and reflective it is. So if you have any light source behind you, you will see the reflections on the display. But if you have no light source, this is the visual quality you can expect, and it looks terrific. The response time of this display is 0.2 milliseconds and the refresh rate is 60 Hz. Let's take a look at how useful the 4:3 aspect ratio is and how it affects visual content work and the user interface that you see. So the thing with this aspect ratio is you get more vertical height, and because of that you get to see more content compared to 16:10 or 16:9 displays. So I'm using this keyboard to block off the bottom part to let you see the difference between 16:9 versus 4:3. So you get to see more content, and it does feel more immersive when you can see your content this big. And there is actually enough resolution for you to open two windows side by side. So if you want to do some research on the left side and you want to write on the right side, you can do so. There is enough space for two windows side by side. When you use a wide format photo while doing graphic design work, there will be unused space at the top and bottom. But the upside is this display is huge. So when you zoom in, you can see your visuals big, and this is quite satisfying to work with. Let's take a look at photo editing. Same thing with a wide format photo, there will be unused space at the top and bottom. Now with Adobe Lightroom, you can actually hide the palettes on the left side to increase the size of the photo. So now this is huge. This is the video editing app DaVinci Resolve. So with the 4:3 aspect ratio, you get more vertical height, so you can expand the timeline palette bigger to see multiple timelines here. And due to the big display and the high enough resolution, you can also see more thumbnails on the side and also get to see this player much bigger. But this laptop is not that suitable for editing video due to the lack of processing power, which I will talk more about later. The Fold 17 can be used as an external display for other Windows laptops and desktops as well. Before you can use this as a wireless external display, you have to go into Windows settings, look for projecting to this PC, and install the wireless display app first, which I have already done so. So let me launch this app. And now on this Windows laptop, I will press the keyboard shortcut Windows K to connect this to the Fold 17 display. I have connected this before, so it should remember the settings. I used the extended desktop mode previously. So let me just move this window back to the laptop. The responsiveness is good enough. It's not instantaneous. There is slight lag or delay, but it's good enough for an external wireless display. The downside to using this as an external display is there aren't many resolution options that support the 4:3 aspect ratio. So right now I'm actually using 1600 by 1200, which means there will be pixelation because the display is 2560 by 1920, but I'm using a lower resolution. If I choose this option, 2560 by 1600, there will be black bars at the top and bottom. So let me just try the highest resolution possible. So the visuals now look sharper with no noticeable pixelation, but there are black bars at the top and bottom. So if you want to fill the display completely, there's only one option to choose from, and that's 1600 by 1200. It is possible to use this as an external display for Mac OS as well, but I don't have the app to show you because the account for that app Duet Display is quite expensive. Let's look at the keyboard. So this is a very typical laptop style keyboard, except it's wireless. It uses Bluetooth, and there is a battery that you have to charge using the USB-C port here. That's the power switch. The battery life unfortunately is less than 1 week, so this is a keyboard you will have to charge quite often. If the keyboard runs out of power while you are using it, you will have to either charge it with the laptop or just use the virtual keyboard, which obviously the typing experience is not going to be as good as the physical keyboard. This keyboard is 300 grams and it's designed to be lightweight, so the compromise is the build quality isn't that solid. The surface is actually this leather sticker. I'm not sure if it's real leather. Anyway, I feel like the leather is not that necessary. This is very thin, and on the back there are 5 rubber feet. And because there is no rubber feet here, if you press down hard, this part can actually move down. Layout for this keyboard is good. There is a control button on the right side, which I use very often, so this is very important for me. The keys are well spaced, the tactile typing experience is good, the keys have good travel and feedback. These are the function key shortcuts. This is for the touchpad to disable or enable the touchpad. This is for projection, and these 3 buttons are for Bluetooth pairing. This keyboard can be paired to 3 devices. That's for the screenshot, the ASUS settings. This keyboard does not have backlight. If it has backlight, it will drain the power even faster. The touchpad is, I would say, medium size. There are left and right click areas and it uses physical clicks. The clicking feedback is alright. It feels a bit plasticky, but it's alright. And if you twist the keyboard, it can click by itself. Overall typing experience on this keyboard is actually good. The 2 main downsides would be the 1 week battery life, and sometimes the Bluetooth connection for the mouse is not consistent, so the cursor sometimes doesn't follow my finger perfectly. When you remove the keyboard, the sensor will know that the keyboard is no longer around and the UI will expand to full screen. The bezels have this rubberized texture, so together with the rubber feet at the bottom, they will prevent the keyboard from moving around when it's on top. There are also magnets to prevent this from moving around. Let's talk about performance. I would associate the Zenbook series from ASUS with performance, but this is actually not a performance laptop. This laptop is designed for non-gaming use, and for non-gaming usage, the overall performance is quite smooth and responsive. Apps can launch very quickly. There are no issues with switching between apps. Web pages can load very quickly as well. You can also use this to edit photos. You can edit 1080p videos, but if your work revolves around editing videos, I would recommend you get another laptop that is more powerful, because the processing power with the Intel Core i7-1250U is kind of limited. It's a 10-core processor, but there are only 2 performance cores at 1.1 GHz, so the processing power is really limited. Transfer speed for the internal SSD is fast, but how fast it is will depend on what's already running in the background. So right now I can get around 5 gigabytes per second read, and for the write speed it's usually around 3 or 4 gigabytes per second, so that's pretty quick. Let's take a look and see how much time it takes to import 100 raw photos, and each photo is 24 megapixels. We will look at how much time it takes to generate the thumbnails and how fast it is to edit and see the changes reflect on the display. So let's import these photos. So this is how much time it takes to import the photos and how much time it takes to generate the thumbnails. It's actually quite fast. Let me just scale down all the thumbnails. Yeah, so the photo import time is quite fast. Let me just select all and do an auto tone control. And this is where I can see the speed is starting to slow down slightly, but still this is very usable. Let me deselect and go into one of these photos. Now on my more powerful laptops, all the things that you see here happen instantly. So here you can see that it's a bit sluggish because I am doing edits for all the photos. Let me zoom in and out. Okay, this is fine. Let me go into the develop settings. Notice it takes some time to load this photo. With my other laptop that has a more powerful processor, the switch between library mode and desktop mode is instant. So here it takes a bit more time, but again, it's still very usable. Let's increase the exposure and reduce it. Okay, this is quite responsive, so this is alright. Editing photos on this system is alright. Oops, Let me go back to the library mode. Yep. Let me scroll up and down. Yep, I can see the system lagging slightly. Yeah, there definitely is some lag. For graphic design work, it's fine unless you are working with gigabytes worth of files, but otherwise for very simple layout and graphic design work like this, it's going to be smooth and fast enough. Let's take a look at video editing. I'm going to launch DaVinci Resolve. It takes a long time to launch DaVinci Resolve, and it takes even more time for the thumbnails, for the timeline, and for the viewer to show. It will be faster with 1080p videos. This is 4K, by the way. But even with 1080p videos, the system may start to feel more sluggish. So this is definitely not powerful enough to edit 4K videos. This is just a random 1080p video that I have imported. And the playback is smooth enough, but I can see some drop frames. But the playback overall is smooth enough. But the overall experience of editing video on this laptop is not ideal because the processing power really is kind of limited. This is not a gaming laptop, but it is possible to play some games with this laptop as long as the game is not graphics intensive. So with this game Hades, I can get 60 FPS, but that's only because I have the resolution set to 1280 by 800, which is actually alright for this particular game. And the resolution options here are limited to mostly wide aspect display. So with this 4:3 display, there will be black bars at the top and bottom, and also this game looks like it's stretched. I actually installed Red Dead Redemption 2, but I'm not going to show you the gameplay because it takes a long time to launch and a long time to quit this game. I was only able to get 7 FPS with this game at 720p resolution. The app that I use to track battery life is Pure Battery. And based on the past 2 weeks of usage, the battery life I was able to get with this laptop is about 5.5 hours to 6 hours. And it takes around 2.5 hours to charge this laptop from 0 to 100%. Alright, to conclude, the ASUS Zenbook Fold OLED is an interesting proof of concept. So this is the first generation design, and if ASUS will make the second gen, hopefully they can make it better, because right now there are several compromises. The main selling point obviously is the huge OLED display with folding design. This is stunning, this is gorgeous, but the compromises are the lack of processing power, which is actually not that bad, as in for non-gaming usage the overall performance is still fast, smooth and responsive. It's just that for the high price you pay, the main selling point is just the screen. For the same amount of money that you spend with this, you can actually get a much more powerful laptop that can do a lot more compared to this, which is just this huge display. So that is the limitation with this product right now. One area of concern is how durable the folding design is, like what's going to happen if you actually need to repair this. So is this worth the money? Well, I feel like it's a very niche product. If it's worth the money for you, it is worth the money. But for me, I would prefer to spend the money on a more traditional laptop design, such as the ASUS Zenbook Pro 16X, yeah, or the Zenbook Pro Duo with the 2 displays. I feel like those 2 laptops are way better in terms of value for money. But that's just my opinion. Alright, I hope this review is useful. See you guys in the next video. Bye.